Stop for a moment. Not because this message is urgent, but because you are. Something inside you has been asking you to slow down lately. Not your mind. Your mind is noisy. Your body, your breath, your awareness. You've been moving through life doing what needs to be done, saying what needs to be said, holding things together. But inside, you feel like you've already moved on. Not away from life, away from the version of life that required you to stay tense all the time. You feel it in small moments, when conversations feel unnecessary, when noise feels heavier than silence, when you don't feel like explaining yourself anymore. That's not disinterest, that's completion. Most people don't notice this stage. They distract themselves out of it. You didn't, and that's why this message reached you. You are not here because you're confused. You are here because you are clearer than ever, and that clarity is asking for change. For a long time, you lived in response mode, responding to situations, responding to people, responding to pressure. You became good at it, so good that others came to rely on your stability without noticing what it cost you. You were the one who stayed calm, the one who adjusted, the one who didn't complain. And because you handled it, no one questioned whether you should have had to. But something shifted. Not suddenly, gradually. You stopped reacting the same way. You stopped feeling guilty for needing space. You stopped forcing enthusiasm where there was none. That's not disinterest, that's honesty. You reached a point where pretending started to feel heavier than telling the truth quietly. And that truth is simple. You cannot continue life from the same internal posture. You outgrew it. Outgrowing doesn't mean rejecting the past. It means you can't live there anymore. There are parts of your life that once made sense, but now feel misaligned. Not wrong, just outdated. And outdated things drain energy even if they look fine on the surface. This is why you feel tired in a different way now. Not physically, existentially. You're not burned out from doing too much. You're burned out from carrying what no longer belongs to you. Expectations, roles, emotional responsibilities. You were strong for too long without being supported in the same way. And strength, when it's not met with care, turns into quiet exhaustion. You don't need motivation right now. You don't need encouragement. You need permission. Not from others, from yourself. Permission to stop managing everything. Permission to stop fixing what you didn't break. Permission to let some things fall away without turning it into a failure story. You may notice resistance around this. A voice that says, if I stop, everything will collapse. That voice kept you alive once. It is not needed anymore. Some things need to collapse so they can stop leaning on you unfairly. You are not responsible for maintaining systems that only work when you overextend. You never were. This phase of your life is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to yourself without armor. You've lived long enough in preparation mode, waiting, enduring, postponing ease. Now life is asking a different question. Can you remain grounded even when you're not bracing for impact? Can you exist without constantly anticipating the next problem? Can you trust calm without labeling it as laziness? This is harder than struggle. Struggle gives identity. Struggle gives structure. Struggle gives purpose. Calm removes excuses. And that's why this stage feels strange. You may feel moments of emptiness, not sadness, not depression, space. Space where urgency used to be. space where chaos once lived. Do not rush to fill that space. That space is integration. Integration is when your nervous system learns a new way of being. You are learning safety without vigilance. You are learning clarity without conflict. You are learning choice without guilt. This does not mean your life will slow down forever. It means it will move from intention instead of reaction. The next chapter of your life will not be built on sacrifice. It will be built on accuracy. Fewer commitments, clearer relationships, decisions that don't require justification. That will surprise people, not because you changed, but because you stopped over-explaining. Some will feel left behind. That does not mean you abandoned them. It means your pace changed. Alignment always changes pace. You are not meant to drag the old version of yourself into the next phase. That version was shaped by survival. The next phase requires presence. Presence does not rush. Presence does not chase. Presence does not beg for understanding. It simply moves when it's time. And you are closer to that time than you think. This message is not here to tell you what to do next. It's here to confirm something. You already know. You've known for a while. You just needed to hear that it's okay to trust yourself now.
You may have noticed something uncomfortable recently. Resistance. Not loud resistance. Subtle resistance. Things taking longer than expected. People responding differently. Plans feeling heavier than they should. At first, you thought you were losing momentum. You're not. Resistance doesn't always mean stop. Often, it means something important is being tested. Whenever alignment begins to settle in, life checks one thing very carefully. Will you go back to what is familiar the moment things become uncomfortable? You have lived most of your life choosing familiarity over truth. Not because you were dishonest, but because truth felt disruptive. Truth changes dynamics. Truth exposes imbalance. Truth demands decisions. So you learn to delay it. You learn to tolerate almost right. You learn to live with good enough. You learn to stay where things were manageable, even if they weren't fulfilling. That strategy worked until it didn't. Now your system rejects what it once accepted. You feel it in your body. Tension when you agree too quickly. Fatigue after certain conversations. A heaviness when you think about commitments that once felt normal. This is not negativity. This is alignment becoming physical. Your body has stopped cooperating with choices your awareness has outgrown, and this is where resistance enters. Resistance is not life pushing against you. It is life asking, are you serious about this change? Because change spoken casually and change lived honestly are very different things. You are being asked to live it. That means you will feel pressure at the exact points where you used to abandon yourself. Pressure around saying no. Pressure around slowing down. Pressure around disappointing people who benefited from your overgiving. This pressure is temporary, but only if you don't negotiate with it. Many people fail here. They feel resistance and immediately soften their boundaries. They go back to explaining, back to overfunctioning, back to carrying more than their share. That resets the cycle. You are not meant to reset. You are meant to complete. Completion is quiet. It doesn't argue. It doesn't announce.
It simply stops participating. You will notice that some relationships feel strained now, not because anyone did something wrong, because the unspoken agreement changed. You are no longer available to play the same role. You no longer absorb emotional weight with reciprocity. You no longer confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice. That shift destabilizes dynamics that relied on you staying the same. Let them destabilize. What is real will adjust. What is not will fall away. You do not need to force clarity. Clarity emerges when you stop compensating. There may be moments when you question yourself. Am I being too rigid? Am I expecting too much? Am I changing for the worse? These questions come from fear of isolation, not from intuition. Intuition is calm. Fear is loud. Learn to recognize the difference. You are not becoming harder. You are becoming more precise. Precision feels sharp to those used to vagueness, but precision is kind. It prevents resentment. It prevents burnout. It prevents collapse. You have collapsed enough times internally while appearing fine externally. That ends here. Another truth you must accept: not everyone will understand this version of you. Some will say you're distant. Some will say you're different. Some will say you've changed. They're right. You have. And change was the point. You didn't come this far to remain accessible to everything. You came this far to learn discernment. Discernment means choosing where your energy goes without apology. You are not required to make sense to everyone. You are required to make sense to yourself. That is the new standard. Resistance will try one last thing. It will tempt you with urgency. Fix this now. Decide quickly. Don't lose this opportunity. Pause. Urgency without clarity is manipulation. What is aligned will not rush you. What is real will survive a pause. Let that be your filter. You are not falling behind. You are falling into place. And falling into place often looks like things slowing down before they move cleanly. Trust that. You have spent enough time moving fast in the wrong direction. Now, direction matters more than speed. This resistance you feel is not blocking you. It is burning off what cannot follow you forward. Stay with it. Do not explain yourself out of it. Do not numb yourself through distraction. Do not rush yourself through it. Let it do its work. When it passes, you will notice something subtle but powerful. Decisions will feel simpler. Boundaries will feel natural. Your energy will stop leaking. That is when momentum returns. Not frantic momentum, but grounded momentum. And grounded momentum does not collapse.
There is a reason certain people feel heavier now. Not because they changed, because you did. When awareness grows, it changes the shape of connection. Some connections expand with you, others resist quietly. A few begin to drain. You feel it immediately. The conversations that once flowed now feel forced. The expectations that once felt normal now feel intrusive. The silence you once feared now feels necessary. This is not rejection. This is recalibration. You are no longer meant to maintain proximity at the cost of alignment. For a long time, you stayed close to people because distance felt unkind. You believed that staying available was proof of loyalty. But loyalty that requires self-erasure is not loyalty. It is fear dressed as virtue. You are learning something new now. Distance can be respectful. Silence can be honest. Letting go can be clean. Some people will exit your life quietly. No arguments, no explanations, no dramatic endings. Just less contact, less urgency, less emotional pull. This is how natural endings occur when there is no resistance. Do not chase these endings. Chasing closure keeps you attached to what has already completed. Completion does not announce itself. It simply stops asking for your energy. You may feel moments of loneliness, not because you are alone, but because your environment no longer reflects who you are becoming. That gap is temporary. It is the space between old resonance and new alignment. Most people rush to fill this space. They reconnect with familiar faces. They overbook themselves. They distract. You are being asked to do the opposite. Stay. Stay with the quiet. The quiet is not empty. It is instructional. In solitude, you begin to hear your own preferences again. Not what is expected of you, not what keeps others comfortable, what actually feels right. You realize how often you agreed without checking in, how often you listened without being heard, how often you adapted without being met halfway. This awareness may feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is honesty returning. You are not meant to isolate forever, but you are meant to reset your standards before reconnecting. Standards are not demands. They are filters. They decide what stays without needing force. As your standards rise, access becomes selective, not because you are superior, but because your energy is finite. You cannot keep offering depth to those who only skim the surface. That is not arrogance. That is discernment. You may notice that people respond to you differently now. Some respect the clarity. Some feel threatened by it. Some disappear. All of these responses are information. None of them require reaction. You are learning to observe without adjusting. That is growth. Another shift is happening quietly. You are becoming comfortable with not being understood. Not misunderstood, simply not fully known. This is important. The need to be understood kept you explaining yourself. Explaining drains energy. Clarity does not explain. It stands. You are no longer responsible for managing other people's perceptions of you. You are responsible for managing your alignment. This may feel selfish at first. It is not. It is self-respect catching up. Self-respect often arrives late because it requires awareness. You have that now. This phase will test whether you trust your internal signals over external approval. Approval feels good. Alignment feels right. They are not the same. You will be tempted to reconnect with people who feel familiar. Ask yourself one question before you do. Do I feel expanded after interacting with them or contracted? Your body will answer honestly before your mind rationalizes. Trust the body. It has been keeping score long before you were ready to look. You are not becoming isolated. You are becoming intentional. Intentional connection feels different, quieter, mutual, unforced. It does not require constant reassurance. It allows space, and space is where respect grows. This is why solitude is necessary now, not as an escape, as a recalibration. You are recalibrating your tolerance, your pace, your emotional availability. This is preparation. What comes next will require clarity, and clarity cannot coexist with constant noise. Let some things fade. Let some people drift. Let some conversations end unfinished. Not everything needs resolution. Some things only need release. When you stop holding on, you will notice relief. Not excitement, relief. That is how you know you did not lose something essential. You simply stopped carrying what was never meant to be permanent.
There is a misunderstanding about purpose that has exhausted you more than you realize. You were taught that purpose is something loud, visible, demanding, something you must chase, announce, and defend. So you pushed yourself. You tried to be productive even when you were empty. You tried to stay relevant even when you needed rest. And slowly, purpose started to feel like pressure. That was never the truth. Purpose is not pressure. Pressure is what happens when you try to perform before you were aligned. Your role is not changing because you failed. It is changing because you matured. There is a stage where effort builds skill, and there is a stage where restraint builds authority. You are crossing into the second stage. This is why ambition feels different now. You still care, but you no longer want to prove. You still want to contribute, but not at the cost of your nervous system. You are not losing drive, you are refining direction. Direction is quieter than motivation. It does not shout, it pulls. You feel that pull now, toward fewer things, clearer things, things that do not require you to convince others of their value. This is where many people get confused. They think something is wrong because life stops feeling dramatic. But drama is not meaning. Drama is urgency without clarity. You lived in urgency for a long time, fixing, managing, responding. It made you capable. It also made you tired. Now, life is inviting you to participate from a different place, from steadiness. Steadiness does not rush. It does not panic when things are unclear. It waits until movement feels clean. This is why visibility feels uncomfortable right now. Not because you fear being seen, but because you refuse to be seen incorrectly. You no longer want attention that misunderstands you. You no longer want recognition that costs accuracy. So you hesitate. That hesitation is wisdom. You are learning that being visible too early creates distortion. Being visible when aligned creates impact. This is why things are slower. Slowness is not delay here. It is calibration. Your voice is changing, not in volume, in weight. When you speak now, it lands differently. Not because you speak more, but because you speak less. People feel when words come from clarity instead of urgency. This is how authority grows, not through dominance, through coherence. You are coherent now in a way you weren't before. Your values match your actions more closely. Your boundaries are lived, not explained. Your energy is contained, not scattered. That containment creates presence. Presence does not need to announce itself. It is noticed. You may feel moments where you want to retreat again, to stay private, to stay quiet, to avoid responsibility. Pause there. Ask yourself honestly, am I resting or am I hiding? Rest restores. Hiding contracts. You will feel the difference immediately. You are not meant to disappear, but you are also not meant to perform. You are meant to embody. Embodiment is living your truth without marketing it. It is consistency without spectacle. It is letting your life speak without narrating every step. That is the role you are stepping into. It will not bring instant applause. It will bring trust. Trust from yourself first, then from others who are ready. Some will not be ready. They will look for excitement, for charisma, for urgency. Let them. You are not here to compete for attention. You are here to stabilize something. Stability is invisible at first, but once felt,
It is unforgettable. This is why your path feels narrow now, not restrictive, focused. Wide paths invite distraction. Narrow paths invite depth. Depth is where your work lives now. Whatever you build next will require patience more than speed. It will require presence more than performance. It will require discernment more than effort. And you have learned discernment the hard way. Do not abandon it just because the world prefers quick results. Quick results fade. Grounded work endures. You are not late to your purpose. You arrived at the only time you could carry it responsibly. Before this, it would have consumed you. Now, it will serve you. This is not the moment to force direction. It is the moment to listen to what keeps repeating quietly inside you. That repetition is not pressure. It is alignment asking for permission to move through you. Let it.
There is a reason money feels different to you now. Not because you want more of it, but because you are tired of what it has represented in your life. For a long time, money meant pressure, responsibility, survival. You didn't see it as support. You saw it as something to manage carefully, something that could disappear, something that demanded constant attention. That relationship shaped how you worked. You overextended, you tolerated too much, you stayed in situations longer than you should have because stability felt fragile. You told yourself you were being practical, but underneath that practicality was fear. Fear of losing ground, fear of starting over, fear of needing help. That fear kept you disciplined. It also kept you constrained. Now, something is shifting. You are beginning to separate your worth from your output, your value from your exhaustion. And that is uncomfortable, because struggle gave you identity. It made you feel necessary. It made you feel responsible. It made you feel earned. Receiving, on the other hand, feels passive to someone who survived through effort. Receiving requires trust. Trust that you will not lose yourself when things become easier. Trust that support will not weaken you. Trust that abundance will not corrupt your intentions. This is why abundance tests you more than lack ever did. Lack forced you to move. Abundance asks you to choose. When resources increase, so does responsibility. Not responsibility to give everything away, responsibility to steward wisely. To say no when something looks profitable but feels misaligned. To slow down when speed would inflate ego instead of impact. To remain grounded when external validation increases. You are entering a phase where opportunities will feel closer. Not overwhelming, just present. More invitations, more access, more choice. And choice is heavy. Choice removes excuses. You will no longer be able to say, "I didn't have another option." You will. And that means you must know yourself. This is why your relationship with money is being recalibrated now. Not to make you richer, but to make you clearer. Clearer about what you accept. Clearer about what you decline. Clearer about what you are willing to trade your peace for. You have traded peace before. For security, for approval, for momentum. And you learned the cost. Now, life is asking if you can receive without immediately paying for it with your nervous system. Can you let things be stable without creating pressure to feel useful? Can you allow support without apologizing for it? Can you hold resources without feeling the need to prove that you deserve them? These are quiet tests. They don't announce themselves. They show up as subtle discomfort when things are going well, as restlessness when there is no crisis, as guilt when you are not struggling. That guilt is old conditioning. It taught you that goodness comes from sacrifice and that ease must be temporary. That belief kept you honorable. It also kept you tired. You do not need to suffer to remain sincere. You do not need to deprive yourself to remain grounded. Groundedness now comes from awareness, not limitation. You are learning to receive without inflating, without collapsing, without abandoning your center. That is maturity. You may notice that you become more selective with work, not lazier, more accurate. Accuracy saves energy. It prevents wasted effort. It prevents resentment. It prevents misalignment. You will also notice that you stop explaining your pricing, your boundaries, your decisions, not because you are rigid, but because clarity does not negotiate. This may make some people uncomfortable, especially those who benefited from your flexibility. That discomfort is not your responsibility. You are not here to be affordable to everyone. You are here to be aligned with yourself. Abundance that requires self-betrayal is scarcity in disguise. You already know how that ends. This phase is about sustainability, not just financial sustainability, emotional sustainability. Can you build a life that does not rely on adrenaline? Can you grow without burning yourself as fuel? Can you hold more without becoming tense? These are the questions shaping your next chapter. You are not being tested to see if you can have more. You are being tested to see if you can remain yourself while having more. That is a different challenge, and you are more prepared than you think. You learned patience when things were delayed. You learned restraint when things were scarce. You learned humility when recognition was absent. Those lessons did not disappear. They stabilized. Now they will support you instead of restricting you. Do not rush this transition. Let your nervous system adjust to a life that does not demand constant output. Let yourself feel what stability feels like without labeling it as stagnation. Stability is not stuck. It is rooted. Rooted things grow steadily, without panic. You are becoming rooted. And from rootedness, your choices will become cleaner, less emotional, less reactive, more intentional. That is how you protect your integrity as life expands. Not by saying no to everything, but by saying yes only when your clarity remains intact. This is not the end of your relationship with effort. It is the end of effort being your identity. You will still work, you will still contribute, you will still build, but you will not bleed into it. And that is the difference between survival and stewardship.
What you are learning now is how to live without urgency. Urgency once protected you. It kept you alert. It kept you moving. It kept you from collapsing when things were unstable. But urgency is not meant to be permanent. When urgency stays too long, it turns into anxiety disguised as responsibility. You have lived long enough with your body braced for impact. Now, nothing is chasing you, and that feels unfamiliar. You may notice moments where your mind looks for something to fix, a problem to solve, a task to rush toward, a worry to justify your tension. Pause there. That impulse is not intuition, it is habit. Your nervous system learned to stay activated because stillness once meant danger. Now, stillness means safety. Your system is recalibrating. This recalibration can feel strange. You may feel slightly disconnected at times, not from reality, from urgency. You may wonder if you are becoming indifferent. You are not. You are becoming regulated. Regulation does not remove emotion, it removes chaos. You can still care deeply without being consumed. You can still respond without reacting. This is the difference between involvement and entanglement. You are stepping out of entanglement. Entanglement kept you exhausted because everything felt personal. Every delay felt like failure. Every conflict felt like threat. Every decision felt final. Now, decisions feel lighter. Not because they don't matter, but because you trust yourself to adjust if needed. This trust did not come from confidence, it came from experience. You survived outcomes you once feared. You rebuilt when you thought you couldn't. You adapted without losing your core. That is why you can breathe now. You are no longer afraid of uncertainty. You are aware of it without being ruled by it. This is why silence feels important to you now. Not silence as withdrawal, silence as space. Space where your thoughts settle instead of collide. Space where your intuition can be felt instead of drowned out. You do not need to fill this space. You are not falling behind by moving slower. You are integrating. Integration is when lessons stop being remembered and start being lived. You are no longer reminding yourself to set boundaries, you simply do. You are no longer reminding yourself to pause before committing. You naturally hesitate when something feels off. This is integration. It is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek validation. You may notice that your emotional reactions shorten. You feel something, and it passes. You don't spiral the way you used to. You don't rehearse conversations endlessly. You don't carry interactions for days. This is not detachment. It is resolution. Unresolved parts of you once demanded attention. They are settling now. You are no longer required to revisit the same lessons to prove that you learned them. You learned them. This phase is not about improvement. It is about maintenance. Maintaining clarity, maintaining alignment, maintaining nervous system safety. Maintenance may sound boring. It is powerful. It prevents collapse. It sustains growth. It protects what you built internally. You are not meant to be constantly evolving. You are meant to stabilize what you've become. From stability, future growth will emerge naturally, not from pressure, not from comparison, not from fear, but from curiosity and genuine interest. You will know when it's time to move again. Movement will feel clean, not rushed, not forced, not dramatic. Until then, this stillness is doing important work. Do not mistake it for stagnation. Stagnation feels heavy. This feels calm. Calm is not empty. Calm is full of capacity. Capacity to choose, capacity to rest, capacity to respond without losing yourself. This is the foundation for everything that comes next. You are learning to live without bracing, to exist without tension, to trust that nothing bad is coming just because nothing loud is happening. This is where peace becomes real, not as an idea, as a bodily experience. Let it stay. You have spent enough time waiting for the other shoe to drop. It doesn't need to. You are not being tested anymore through crisis. You are being trusted with calm. That trust is earned. You earned it.
There is a moment when a journey completes without celebration. No announcement, no applause. Just a quiet certainty that you are no longer who you were. This is that moment. You are not standing at the beginning of something new, as much as you are standing at the end of running. Running to keep up, running to prove, running to hold everything together. You don't feel the urge to chase clarity anymore, because clarity is not ahead of you, it is where you are standing now. For a long time, you believed movement meant progress. If things were moving, you felt safe. If things slowed, you felt behind. That belief kept you active. It also kept you tense. Now, something fundamental has changed. You no longer need constant motion to feel alive. You no longer need urgency to feel important. You no longer need struggle to feel worthy. This is not complacency. This is arrival. Arrival does not mean everything is finished. It means you are no longer lost. You know what drains you now. You know what nourishes you. You know the difference between noise and signal. And most importantly, you trust yourself to respond accordingly. That trust is the real transformation. You didn't gain it overnight. You earned it by surviving uncertainty, by sitting with discomfort, by not abandoning yourself when things felt unclear. You stayed, and staying changed you. You are no longer searching for permission to live the way you feel is right. You are no longer waiting for someone else to confirm what your body already knows. You are no longer negotiating with your intuition. You listen, and then you act, or you don't. Both are choices now. This is what autonomy feels like. Quiet, unimpressive from the outside, unshakable from the inside. There will be moments ahead when the world feels loud again. Demands will return, opinions will surface, pressure will attempt to re-enter. When that happens, remember this state. Remember how it feels to not be rushed internally. Return here. You don't need to solve everything at once anymore. You have learned something more valuable. How to pause without panicking. How to wait without collapsing. How to choose without apologizing. These skills will protect you more than motivation ever did. You may notice that your life becomes simpler, not smaller, cleaner, fewer entanglements, clearer priorities, less emotional residue. You will stop replaying conversations, stop second-guessing decisions, stop scanning the past for mistakes. Not because you were avoiding accountability, because you integrated the lessons. There is nothing left to extract. The past did its job. You do not need to keep visiting it to honor it. Honoring it means not repeating it. From this point forward, your life will respond to consistency, not intensity. Consistency in how you treat yourself. Consistency in what you allow. Consistency in what you walk away from without drama. This consistency will create stability, and stability will attract what chaos never could. You don't need to manifest harder. You don't need to visualize longer. You don't need to prepare endlessly. You need to remain aligned with what feels calm and honest. That alignment will do the rest. There may be moments when you miss the old intensity, the adrenaline, the feeling of being needed, the identity built around fixing things. That nostalgia is normal. Intensity feels purposeful when you don't yet trust peace. But peace is not emptiness. Peace is capacity. Capacity to respond wisely. Capacity to enjoy without guilt. Capacity to build without burning yourself. This is what you are learning to hold now. You are not required to announce this shift to anyone. Those who need to feel it will. Those who don't will drift. Both outcomes are fine. You are no longer here to manage reactions. You are here to live accurately. Accuracy is not perfection. It is honesty in motion. It is adjusting when needed without self-attack. It is choosing rest without calling it weakness. It is choosing growth without forcing outcomes. This is how you walk forward now. Not checking behind you, not scanning for signs, simply paying attention to what settles and what doesn't. If something brings quiet clarity, it belongs. If something brings confusion in contraction, it doesn't. You do not need more rules than that. This chapter closes not with an ending, but with a seal that says, you are no longer living from survival. You are no longer defined by urgency. You are no longer waiting to feel safe. Safety is here, not as certainty about the future, but as trust in yourself to meet whatever comes. That trust is enough. Stay with it. Everything that matters will meet you there.